Greetings, Bowtie Guide 5 here. We are continuing our formal wear deep dive. We have discussed the suit, the shirt, some accessories, and we are continuing with accessories onward to neckwear. So in my previous videos, have discussed bow ties and neckties quite a bit, so I want to elaborate that a little more. As you see, I've got the bow tie on here. Bow ties, I think, are pretty much the mainstay. Whenever anybody thinks tuxedo, they automatically think bow tie. And there's a few different styles of bows. The one I have on now here is a classic kind of batwing or butterfly small. I've got a batwing here. It's more of a thin style that just goes straight across, kind of squared off. And then I've got a larger butterfly style here, where it's pointed, just the pointed end at the bottom, and then it's straight across, and it's pretty large. Those different styles have evolved over the years. Long ago, early on in my channel, I discussed the history of bow ties and their origins. Some of these other styles of bows, they've evolved from that style over the years. In the mid-century, 40s, 50s, 60s, you get into that thinner, almost batwing style, streamlined. And then everything got bigger in the 70s. That's where we come into this kind of large style, and that kind of carried through the 80s a little bit. And then I think through the 90s and on, we kind of got back to a more streamlined style of bow. Although I have seen the larger style pop up occasionally. It has its place. The thing with the bow tie, it should frame the face. So if you have like a more slender face, you may like the batwing style, that kind of thinner, shorter style. If you're a more larger or well-endowed person, that's going to be lost on you, so you may want the larger styled. I also think another rule of thumb with the bow tie is that the ends of the wing should be congruent to the spread of the collar. So if you're wearing a lay-down collar like I am, you see that the ends are similar in length. Excuse me. Now, I have mentioned in more recent times, the necktie seems to have gained more popularity. I don't know exactly why that is. Neckties or cravats have existed for quite some time. They really didn't take off until around the 1920s. And at that time it was used fashionably as well as functionally as the tie. You could cinch it up, and it was used to kind of hold the collar nice and tight around the neck. When we get away from the detached shirts and back to shirts where the collar's already attached, and any collars that weren't heavily starched at the time were kind of loose fitting, and so the necktie or cravat was a way to hold that tight around the neck. Cravats kind of made their way into formal wear. At the turn of the century, it was seen as a more way to be more decorative and more flourishing with your attire. Now the cravat's a little different from the necktie in that the knot, it's usually larger, it encompasses more of the neck area, it's kind of ruffled or pleated depending on the style of the cravat you're using, and kind of hangs down. That goes best with a vest, because the cravat usually doesn't come all the way down to the waist. It usually kind of comes down about midway. And unlike a necktie, it kind of flares out at the end. It doesn't really come to a point. So a vest is good because it hides all of that. You're not really going to see a cravat with a cummerbund like I'm wearing here. Now the cravat I kind of like if it's done the right way. If you're doing like a morning suit look, which we're going to be discussing morning suits later on, but it kind of, that gives you a certain kind of look. I like that. The necktie, not so much, because I feel like the necktie, you know, that's a business suit accessory, and I feel like the tuxedo should be a step up from that. So you should do the bow tie, or if you're going for more of a day look, I would do the cravat or ascot kind of thing. You may also see cravats or ascots with wedding attire. I believe I discussed that in a previous video on the cravat and ascot. So that's kind of just a brief history on both. Now I have a separate video on tying bow tie. I have actually quite a few that are from early on in my online video career, but I just want to give a little demonstration for now. You do not normally see self-tied bow ties with tuxedos these days because of you know, rentals, and they give you those cheap little clip-on things. Now in movies and TV and things, you'll see, which always bugs me, you can tell they're wearing a clip-on, but then later on in the scene they'll do something like this where the collar's open and the tie's hanging down, and I'm like, no, where'd that come from? But here's just a little quick tutorial. I'm going to come from the side so you can see better what I'm doing here. So you always start with the left end longer than the right. And a lot of people don't realize this, but you're basically using the same knot as you would tying your shoe, and you just cross one end over the other, and then you pull it, cinch it tight, not too tight, but tight enough that it holds its place. And then I like to take my thumb to hold those ends together so it stays nice and snug. Then we make our first loop. You just come over here, and this rounded end, you bring it together, fold it in on itself, and that comes up against the neck. Your other end you pull over the front and over top, just like so. And then we make our second bow, again folding the rounded end up on itself. Now this is the part that gets everybody, and I hope you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So when you fold this end over top the first end, it creates a hole in back. You can see kind of where my finger goes through. What you do is that second loop that you've made, you feed through that hole, pushing it through the hole and towards your left side, creating the knot. And there you have it. And you, this one's kind of tight, so it finishes well. Usually there's a lot of adjusting involved. I want to show you a really quick trick here to adjusting the bow tie that doesn't involve a lot of back and forth. So if you take the back end of the first loop and the front back bottom end of the bottom loop, and then the front on top, give it a little tug, and then alternate that and do the back bottom here and the front top here. And you'll notice immediately it tightens that knot in the middle and just gives some symmetry to the shape. And then you get that nice dimple there in the middle. And there you have it, the bow tie. So it was just a brief history and a little how-to, little tutorial. So now that you know how to tie your own, you do not have to rely on those pesky clip-ons anymore. You can step up your formal wear game. And the best part about this is at the end of the night, you can show off to all your friends and do this. And impress them with your kind of James Bond-esque after-party look. So, this video was not a part of my original mini-series, but was suggested to me to add in, and I thought, why not? Great idea. So here we go. Let me know what you think, like and subscribe. Hit me up in the comment section, and until next time.